Well, g'day, Max here again. Welcome back to the shop. So this will be part 10 in the series of our repairs on our JFMT lathe. So today we're going to be fitting the way wipers into the tailstock that I have cut out here, and then we'll be assembling the compound slide. It's all cleaned up, ready for assembly. I did find my missing gib strip that I couldn't find last video, and then we're going to move on to the carriage and see what we have to do there. We ran out of time the last video, but it was planned for then, so it's going to be in this week's video. So let's bring you down. We'll have a look at these, where we're at with these way wipers. So these are the way wipers we've been cutting out of a sheet of 1/4 inch felt. So these ones here are for the tailstock, including that. These are for the compound slide, and the one for the tailstock quill was originally a round full circle shape. It has a bit of a wedge profile. So I'm going to see how this goes. Well, that was a bit difficult to cut out, so I'll try to cut it out in a strip, so it should crush up no problem, I hope. So we'll see how it goes. So alright, we'll get these fitted in place. They have been soaking in oil. And they do have a fair amount of crush on them as well. And we've fitted our oilers are on, so we can fill up the oil cups. So that's the quill wiper in position. There's a bit left on adjustment. Actually, there's quite a lot of adjustment on these, so these can be screwed in a fair way further just to put a bit more crush on that as it wears in on the or more crush on the felt seal. So the next thing, let's sort this gib strip out, and we did manage to get our handle done too. So that's the Caterpillar handle. That's sorted, and I think I mentioned before we got this plate off just to go and get a colour match done on it. So alright, let's sort this gib out. So this gib strip, what this does, it takes out any play and crookedness between the top and bottom sections. It is something you, on some machines, you do have to fight when you do a tailstock adjustment, and I'm assuming this will help with that quite a lot. So you'll see if we wiggle the top, we can push it in. So it stops wiggling, and then we have the adjuster screws. I'm just going to net that just till I felt it start to move the gib on that side. And there's another one for the other side. Oops. Okay, so now we can use our adjusting screws to centralise the tailstock. I'm just going to adjust that gib up just a little bit more, as it is moving quite freely. Okay, I can feel a bit of resistance there now. She's firm. So we're a fair way this way, so in order for the tailstock to move that way, we slacken this one off and we tighten the same screw that's sitting on the opposite side. Then it will bring the whole thing over towards me. So we do have a scale on the back. That's just for an approximation of where the thing is lying. Of course, we have to set it properly. We'll put a piece of material in the chuck, and we'll probably turn it to the same diameter as the quill, and we'll do our checks that way. We'll cover that one when the machine's all wired up. So as you can see, it's got to go across this way until the centre line on here lines up with the 0 on here, which is over here. So to do that, we slacken off on this side here. We loosen the adjuster off here. And we tighten this one up. And bring it along till the 0 lines up. And go back to the other side, nip it, go back, nip it, and that's centralised, ready for a test. So what we do now, underneath down the bottom here, if you remember there was those bolts, so we'll just nip those up, front and rear. And they just stop the whole show going out of adjustment. So going back to our 2-speed drive gears for a second, I was a bit concerned about what appeared to me to be a bit of excessive end float on these 2 gears, or this gear assembly. So I did machine up a thrust washer to go in there and take all of that out. So that's that little washer there. Right, let's get our compound slide back together. So we need to get the nut back in position. This actually has a match mark on it, so it does go the right orientation. And there's a telltale mark there too from the, yeah, it is that one. Has a cone point screw to lock it in position. Just carefully tap that down. We use our thread to get a bit of an idea on alignment. It's not too bad there. And we should be able to see our mark, witness mark from when it was last. We're coming up on it now. A bit more. Touch more. Okay, that's it there. So I'll pop this locking screw in, but I won't tighten it up until final assembly, just in case it just needs a bit of a slight adjustment. Okay, so I have already mounted the tool post stud, just screws them from the underside with 4 cap screws to hold it in position. Now this is the one for the multi-fix tool post that the lathe came with, which I'll reuse for now, but I would like to change it for a Dixon style tool post. I do actually prefer, well, the reason I do prefer the Dixons is it's what I've mainly always used, and I quite like them. I like the idea of just being able to loosen off the top locking nut and just move it a fraction without having to take the whole tool holder out of the tool post and move it to the next notch as you do with a multi-fix. I just don't like that idea at all. Bit of oil underneath, plenty of it, slop it around. Okay, so this should go, I think, that way around there. Yep. Now, our gib strip. Whoops, just hit the camera with me noggin. Our gib strip actually comes in from this end here. And the adjuster screw for the gib. This is a longer than normal adjusting screw for some reason. Now, somewhere oh yeah, the rear one's already in. We'll back that one off. There's something funky going on here. It's locked up. So that tells me we've got some wear going on in here. Yeah, so it's just free all the way back there. When we come up here, that's binding up. It shouldn't be like that, it should be the same all the way across. So that tells me there's wear either in the slide or in the gib strip itself. Now, when you're cutting, normally it's not an issue, but when you're cutting tapers, as I do tend to cut quite a few tapers, it becomes an issue. So what I think's possibly happening We'll swing you round down here so you can get a better view. What I suspect on the gib strip on this area here has nowhere near the wear on it as the front section of the gib strip. So it's looking to me like I've got to pull this gib strip out. I'll put a texture mark on it. We might have to scrape this area of the gib strip, so we'll probably have to do a bit of a step scrape on it. So we'll go down so far, then we'll start again and go down so far, and we'll do it again. We'll do that 3 times, I think. We'll pop it back in and have a feel. Yeah, there is a bit of wear on that. Saying that too, there is wear on our screw in here too, but it's nothing near the point where it needs to be replaced or anything like that sort of carry on. So okay, what I'll do, I'll disassemble this again. I'll wipe all the oil off it again, and we'll try and get a mark on it, pick up a high spot. Right, so I've cleaned everything up, cleaned the oil off everything, and got some blue lines running across our gib strip there. So up this end is our tight end, so we're getting a smearing of the blue up here. Now, we never got to travel any further than about the second line. 2, 3, there's 3 lines, there's 4 lines in where it's starting to smear the blue, and down the other end it's not touched it. So that tells me we're high. This is we're high in this area here. So what we'll do is we'll scrape from here to the back, then we'll go from here back, there back, there back, and we'll re-blue it up, pop it back in and have another shot. Bit unfortunate, yeah, I was hoping this would go together without a hitch so we could get into our carriage. So anyway, them's the brakes. So out with the scraper, and we'll do some scraping. Oh, okay, so after dicking around with this for a couple of hours, due to it jamming up, I'm playing around with the gib, a bit of scraping on the gib as well. I've decided to heave to on this and continue this part in the other shop where I've more set up to deal with the issues that we have going on. So what it looks to me like is the angle of the gib and the angle of the compound slide where the gib runs against, they're not quite as they should be. So what's happening when I slide the gib in, if I just push it in with my fingers till it stops, we'll get compound sitting in the middle. Up this end we have no play, and down this end we're getting rock. So that tells me that the gib is thicker on this end than it should be, or thinner on this end than it should be, which sort of basically means it's the wrong angle, possibly. I won't know for sure till we're over in the other shop and I can do some proper bluing and some proper measuring. I've already scraped a fair bit off this end of the gib, and although the gib now does go in further, it still hasn't alleviated the problem of the extra rock down this end with no rock up this end. So let's take this part over to the other shop and deal with that. So we can get the handle and screw assembly together here, and then we'll move on to our carriage. Right, this fingers crossed will be a relatively easy one. Bit of oil, the old Texas tea. That goes with that. Okay, our graduated collar goes can't remember. No, it has to go this way. Same again, plenty of oil. We have a keyway that goes in here. These two slip together like so. Now there's an adjusting nut. So this nut takes out the play in between the screw and the screw mounting part. So I just want to only super light nip with the fingers on that one, because the handle screws on and this will actually lock this. So that nips that down into place. Make sure we're still sort of actually a little bit too tight. I want a little bit of play in it, but not too much. It's still a bit too tight. Just back this off a bit. Retighten our handle. That feels good there. Okay. So then there's a locking screw, locks the handle to the shaft. Now this is a bit of a one you've got to be careful of, and I was nearly caught out by it. And it is a left-hand thread. Now, I've got to thank Ken for that, for reminding me. Ken over in Canada. Sorry mate, I've forgotten your channel name. I'll put I'll type it in here. HMW, it's something, oh yeah. But yeah, I'm pretty sure it was Ken that reminded me this was actually a left-hand thread. Nip that up. See, that's tightened the whole show up a little bit, so we'll back this one off a bit more. That's got it. So the end play we have, it's basically just for a bit of oil clearance on the thrust faces. It's free without being sloppy. Okay, so that's this part ready for when we sort out the compound slide or top slide, depending on where you're from. Alright, so I'll pack this lot up and we'll move over and we'll have a look and see what issues are about to confront us with our carriage. Right, we've got our carriage hanging off the sky hook. So let's come and take a look at the damage. So we'll start with the rear cross slide way, and this is actually in quite good condition. All feels good, just a bit of corrosion staining, but nothing spectacular going on there. So then we move up to the front cross slide way. So this has copped a bit of damage on the flat surface. See a few lines there. Now, looking at the length of some of these lines where I follow them through, some of them go through to about here. I'm looking very closely at some of these spots that are in. You see a dot there, dot there, dot there, dot there, dot there, and there on the same line. So what's caused these has me thinking, well, you'd expect, oh yeah, it's had some dirt and rubbish go in to cause it. That's, yeah, possibly, could happen. You could have had crap come through from the oil system cause it. Now bear in mind too, this is the cross slide is a full length cross slide, so it overhangs, well, it covers these ways at pretty well all the time. Now, when it overhangs out the back here, when you've got the cross slide wound forward, it does open up an area for crap to get in underneath it because that area is exposed. But bear in mind, this machine has a taper turning attachment, so that does give a bit of protection there as well. So it looks to me like there's been a bit of galling going on here. I'd say this is more due to possible galling, looking at the nature of some of these scratches. So we'll have to investigate the oiling system on it. So the other side, on the V side of it, is in good condition. So it's just that flat surface there. But yeah, there's nothing at all on the underside of the V. It's perfect. So that's we've got an oil fill port there. Okay, let's flip around and we'll have a look and see what's going on the other side. So we're now looking at the underside of the saddle. I think I called it a carriage before, but the carriage is actually the whole assembly with the saddle and the apron together. So at least it has some substantial oil grooving in it, so there's nothing to do there. It's fed through ports, through these copper lines and junction blocks, and same as this one. The problem where they have with the oil feed with this one is it's fed out of a port there at the very top of the V-way. So then the oil can travel along and then cut across through these little side cutouts and feed the main way. Providing your way wipers aren't routed like this one, where all the oil would just piss off out the end there. So we'll correct all that. And there's an oil manifold here. So depending on, I guess, whether you're oiling the cross slide or the main ways here. It's a bit of a dog's breakfast. There's copped a fair bit of damage here, including this one that's been squashed there from some banana who doesn't know what they're doing, who's worked on this before. And of course this big fat one here, which I think feeds the main one here, it's all half squashed. So we've got to replace all of those copper lines, as well as the wiring harness for the rapid traverse. Comes up, comes through the middle of the casting through a drilling, around here, under, through the casting, and then still goes through a drilling in the casting, and then comes out the back to the snake-like looking thing here, which attaches to the rear of the main bed casting. So I'll get all these bits stripped off it, we'll get her all cleaned up, and we'll bring you back on this part for reassembly. So after several hours of cleaning, we have our saddle semi-clean. I say semi-clean, it's clean enough on the outside, but until we've finished our work on the slideways and got all our copper pipes stripped out of it, then we'll give it its final clean, as all the oil galleries, and there's quite a few of them, have to be all flushed out. And we've got there, there and there, across to here. They've got to be all properly flushed out, otherwise we're just going to be flushing all of the crap back underneath it, which is what we don't want. So all that's left on here, yeah, apart from the oil lines, we are going to do some flaking on here, here and here, just for a bit of added oil retention, and it takes some of the little bit of surface area off the sliding component too. The wiring we have stripped out of it, so just there's the button for the rapid traverse, so I'm going to fit a new button into it and replace this wiring. So I'll go to the electrical shop that deals in this sort of stuff and get the proper stuff, and it's where we are. So next time you'll see this, I guess we'll be making copper lines, flaking, running some wires through it. Well, okay, that's all that's going to get. First side came out better looking than the second side, but at the end of the day it's flipped upside down and you never see it. So its purpose is more function, if anything. Actually looks better once the ink's off. Yeah, you sort of get the idea there, the C-shaped crescents. That's more what I think it's supposed to look like than some of the other. Some of them get a bit pointy, but... So these lube lines are an absolute bloody dog's breakfast. So we've got this one here, which broke off. Comes underneath this one, and this is the one that was squashed. So that would have been the one that when we very first disassembled the apron off the lathe, we've seen that from underneath. So yeah, that was squashed between the edge of the casting. So all that I don't even know where it goes. So all that I know is it goes underneath that one and goes there. So I've cut a piece of tubing and I've cut it long. So on assembly, once we finish our work that we have to do on the apron, we'll figure out a spot where this goes. Looking through the parts book, I can't find anything relating to the oil lines, and the rapid traverse, as well as the parts book, is a hodgepodge from the manufacturer and the machine they sort of copied off. so I've got some we're going to use 1/8 and also 3/16 copper tubing. The original stuff is 3mm and 4mm, which is very hard to get over here. You look it up on eBay and it's all from England. But the Imperial stuff we get here, no worries. So it's just an olive compression type fitting. I'll take the old one out. And yes, it's a bit of an oddball looking olive. It's not like the brass olives that we normally get. This is more of a parallel, weird looking olive, whereas that's our normal standard brass olive that we get, we regularly use over here. So make sure we get the right end of the tube. Now I've filed the burr off the tube and I've just used the end of my Leatherman just to deburr the ID. So I'll slip our olive on, poke it in its nipple as far as it'll go, tighten this nut down. I'll put a spanner to hold the other end of the nipple. I want to give that a reasonable nip down and then back it off. Okay, that's crimped the olive into place. So now we're going to need I want to keep these bends very tight, so I'm not sure how much actual clearance we've got. I don't think there's much clearance between the workings of the saddle, looking at the wear marks and things on top of here. So let me go and get a screwdriver, something with a small radius I can use to bend this over. So I'm just going to hold a screwdriver in there. Just so we don't kink the very end of it. We'll go over past and then bring it back up level. Right, so I can take it back off now. So that gives us that shape there, and then he goes through that one. We don't even know if it's actually supposed to go through that one, but that's how it was when it was disassembled. Just put a bit of a bend in it there. Set him back into place and just hook him around a bit more, something like that. Keep it nice and low, and we can tighten this one up. And we'll just leave the rest straight because, yeah, we've got no idea where this one goes yet, but it goes to the apron somewhere. So I've been going through checking all of the oil pipes and ports in our casting here. And what I found was the one that supplies the oil to this way here. Now, this is the one that's copped all of the damage. She was completely blocked with crap. So I was able to poke around and get this one clear, but I couldn't get a proper good flow of oil out of this side one here. So I've had to drill out, there's a brass blanking plug in the side, so I've had to drill it out to allow me access to further into the casting on the junction of the drilled holes, as there's another brass plug here. So where that one goes through that way, and this one here, where they meet, forms the oil passage for here. And yeah, she was completely blocked. So just in the process of cleaning that out. See all the black, just to build up a crap right in the corner there. So once those ones are done, we'll move on to the lower ones. These ones here, these two here, are fine. This one feeds the other side of the cross slide way. This one here comes up here to feed the slideway here. So this is the undamaged way, and these all were nice and free. There was no blockage. So it brings me back to what my original thoughts were. This is more a lack of lubrication issue than crap getting in there.